Serious, tattoo artists, what was your worst mistake and how did the client react? When I was but a wee baby piercer, I worked at the biggest shop in my city which had 14 artists and 2 piercers. It was the peak of the tramp stamp trend. I'm still so sad that was the nickname. Antlers was so much better, so when a super tiny 18-year-old black woman came in and wanted her name on her lower back with a flower, it was just normal. An older white male tattoo artist took her to pick a font. It took a minute, even though back then everyone went with Edwardian, but they came out. I had her do paperwork and he got the drawing finished. She okayed the design, she okayed the stencil, and she sat for the tattoo, loved it, tipped him and left. 2 hours later she called back sobbing saying we ruined her life. The counter girl told her to come in and we would fix whatever was wrong. Tattoo comes back with her 2 gigantic, angry as F friends who are ready to freak out. We finally see the tattoo. Her name was Whitney. The N got left out in the font process. So huge across her lower back it said Whitey. It was covered for free and with many apologies with 3 giant purple roses. The tattoo artist was so effed up over that he didn't come in for a week. It was an honest mistake, but it was the worst effing spelling error I've seen. Definitely the worst spelling error I've read on here. Damn. I had a client who decided he wanted lettering on his forearms, sayings in Greek and Hebrew. He doesn't speak either language, but he had one of his friends double-check the spelling before he sent the references to me. Came in, we did the tattoos, pretty simple appointment. Fast forward to a couple weeks later. I get a message from my client about the tattoo that was done in Hebrew. He owns a small construction/restoration company, and has a few Israeli guys who work for him. Apparently, they were giving him a lot of crap for his Hebrew tattoo. He originally thought they were just messing with him, because it was spelled wrong. The font he had chosen off a quick Google search essentially changed a couple of the letters, kind of like the difference between an F and a T, making it a completely different word. We ended up being able to fix it pretty easily and had a good laugh about it, but definitely beware when you're getting tattoos in a language you and your artist don't speak. Best advice I could give anyone, as someone who has lived abroad and seen too many screw-ups in multiple languages, study the language/script first. Knowing even a bit about how letters are formed in different writing types can help so much. Grammar is important as well. I lived in Japan and saw so many weird things written in English because people didn't know the proper word order. Kanji tattoos are worse. Not only not knowing what kanji can be put together, but how the writing strokes go. If the tattoo artist has no idea, it's going to look backwards. There is a directionality to how it is written, and if you don't know how, it's going to look like an illiterate artist drew a picture of what he thinks writing looks like. End rant. So I didn't mess up, but I had a client scare me. I was tattooing his sister's name on him. She passed away. Gabriella with 1 L in it. Past the point of no return, he asks me, there's 2 liters, right? I think I had a heart attack, and he started laughing. He thought it was hilarious. I died a little and pretended to laugh. My artist didn't mess up but scared the crap out of me. My first tattoo from him was a lighthouse with a symmetrical pattern on the bottom. It's a red American traditional flower with wings of other green, orange, yellow, and red petals curving away, symmetrically. You can see it in my post history. He finished one side, then was coloring the other side that I couldn't see, and I heard him whisper OF. Turns out instead of working with the yellow first for a fade into orange, he accidentally did the orange first and couldn't really work in the yellow. Not a huge deal and not noticeable at all, but he certainly made my heart skip. A few years ago I was tattooing a client who had apparently lost a bet. His buddies were allowed to tattoo something behind his shoulder as long as it wasn't racist or offensive. Turns out the guy drew up a design of a leprechaun throwing up on a book. Sure, why not? Everyone was sober and they were paying pounds up front. Easy work. The drawing was really simple and the shading was easier than I thought it'd be. Turns out everyone liked it. Except the guy with the tattoo of a leprechaun throwing up on a book. He picked at the scab, trying to get rid of it, completely took it from bad to worse. Comes in about 10 days later, demanding a refund of money he didn't pay, or the studio, not me, cover it up. Nope. Management said you signed for it in your right mind and then damaged it yourself. Personally, I was yelled at and told never tattoo anyone like that. It only works in television series or film. Did I make a mistake? Yes and no. The lesson here is don't get involved in others' drama when permanent body marking are involved. Honestly, sounds like an expected reaction from the type of person who would actually take a bet that would force him to get a tattoo. My only spelling mistake ever was in Italian. Girl wants a phrase in Italian. She writes it down no less than 5x on a paper. I tell her to make sure it is correct. I don't speak Italian. She insists it is correct. I draw up some nice script, tattoo it with no issues, bandage, pay, and she leaves. She comes back in hysterical and tells me I spelled it wrong. I hadn't thrown out the paper. I spelled it exactly how she spelled it. I asked what she wanted to do, and she decided no one I know speaks Italian. That was about 15 years ago. I often wonder if she ended up getting it covered up. Lamau, it's good that she was able to accept the mistake as her own. I was relieved she took it well and also that the blame was off of me. I worked in a big street shop for 9 years. The spelling mistakes I saw from everyone else made me check, double check, and then check once more. 3 of us had to go to our boss mid-tattoo to let him know he was about to put sweatheart on someone. It's called fashion, sweaty. Look it up. Worked as a piercer in a shop a decade ago. A guy came in and wanted Murphy's Law. The artist free-handed a design on him. He green-lit it after watching in the mirror, and they did a beautiful piece with a banner saying Murphy's Law. Seemed fitting. The guy loved the fact that his one messed up tattoo was the Murphy's Law one. Edit. Some people have pointed out the lack of apostrophe in the spelling. This took place in a small Swedish town and 100%, there was no apostrophe. Swedes are generally decent at English, but apostrophe to indicate ownership is probably the part we suck most at. That's actually better than getting it right. I always thought so. I have a tattoo that says courage in really scrawly font, and my sister pointed out that it looks like it says cow rage. I love it because I think it adds an extra layer to a really basic tattoo. May we all have the cow rage courage when we need it. Low-key so meta, it's dope. I was working at a place when a guy came in for a full back piece of 3 different cars. It took like 4 visits to finish, and each visit he'd look at it and say it looks awesome, and then he would take off. On the last visit, they call me in to look at it to show me how awesome it turned out. Well, all the steering wheels were on the wrong side, and the reason no one caught it was because the dude was looking in a mirror to check his progress so they looked correct. I'm pretty sure the guy was super chill about it when they offered a bunch of free work and they fixed it in another session. Well, they'd be on the correct side for some parts of the world. Yeah, they were imports. I was a receptionist at a tattoo shop. One of the artists misspelled neighborhood on this guy's neck. He spelled it neighborhood, leaving out the first H. Neighborhood was the guy's nickname. It was a pretty large, elaborate tattoo, so there was no fixing it. I don't think I have ever cringed so hard in my life. The guy was surprisingly really cool about it. He did see the drawing and approved it before it was tattooed on. He ended up making the artist tattoo a H on his palm, so if anyone gave him crap about the misspelling, he could smack that person with the missing H. That dude's got a sense of humor. I like that. That's effing amazing. What a legend. Honestly, it's amazing how well he took it. I had a client email me asking for a 4-letter acronym. I don't do freehand script, so I put the letters into a font generator and then sent him back some options. He picked the one he liked best and we set an appointment date. On the day of his session, I showed him the acronym again and we chose a size. I placed the stencil and he approved it and I got started. Midway through the tattoo, I asked him what the letters stood for and he told me. My heart stopped. The letters were in the wrong order. The middle 2 were swapped. I ran to the shop computer to check my email, and sure enough, in his original email he'd sent me, they'd been correct. I had typed them into the font generator wrong. But to be fair, he had seen them several times since then and didn't notice my mistake. I spent the rest of the session covering them up with another design he'd had as a backup tattoo idea, and I didn't charge him. But it was a good learning experience for me to always ask what initials/acronyms stand for ahead of time to make sure I get them in the right order. Edit. Thank you for all the awards and upvotes. It makes me feel slightly less inclined to puke with embarrassment every time I think about that day. Also, I originally wrote initials, but I think what I meant was acronym, so I went through and corrected my comment and also clarified which letters I mixed up. My wife and I got matching tattoos with our children's birthday and our wedding day. Pretty generic. We had to watch the kids, so we took turns. She went first. I showed up after her appointment and she was beaming with excitement at how nice the numbers were. She showed me. The wedding day was wrong. She had the 15th and ours is the 14th. The tattoo artist felt terrible. My wife had looked at it at least twice before it was put on. Entirely her fault. Don't beat yourself up, lol. You showed them a few times. That's your due diligence. The 15th was the first full day of the rest of your lives together. A lot of people say the day after the wedding is better. It's less stress, you can ask your friends to stick around but not your family. It's a lower key day. Your heart must have missed a beat. Good thing you were able to roll with it. Goddamn, my heart skipped a beat just reading it. I can't imagine being there. Og, wow. Thank God he had a backup. I gave a guy a tattoo in prison of his girlfriend's name on his arm. I knew him on the street and his girl and knew it was going nowhere, and insisted he change his mind. He didn't, so I made a bet with him that crap was going to go belly up within 6 months. When we got out of segregation and back onto the yard, a few weeks passed at most, and I can see him having a bad conversation on the phone. He called me over to his cell and offered me up a huge effing sack of commissary without a word. I didn't take it, figure he needed it more than me. Still feel like crap to this day. Edit, I thought I was going to get dragged, but you mother effers are supportive as hell. Living out here is effing hard, and every time I go to bed I dream about being inside again. I saw a psychologist like 2 weeks ago and she said I am showing classic signs of PTSD and institutionalization. I keep putting off my follow-up appointments, but I'm going to reschedule. Thank you all. Respect to the dude for going through something usually crafty, while already in some crap prison, but then still immediately honoring the bet you could have even forgot about by that point. My ex did a large scarification on the client's abdomen. The client had brought in a piece of paper with a stylized word perseverance. I was invited in midway to see the progress and had to tap my ex on the shoulder for a spelling lesson. The release form for my tattoo artist had a giant section for anyone getting a tattoo with words or letters. The whole section stated that any misspellings were not their fault and to put the letters in order exactly how you wanted them tattooed. That's the smartest way to go. Have perseverance tattooed on my side was my first tattoo at 18 and I was almost this person. Artist caught it while we were looking at the stencil. I've never really made any big mistakes that garnered a reaction, but one of my clients has a tattoo from another artist in a local studio that says Gradad instead of Grandad. The studio fired the artist and wouldn't take any responsibility for what had happened. How did they reconcile those two positions? We don't sell tattoos, we rent benches and equipment to independent artists, etc. Exactly. He doesn't work here anymore, therefore his mistakes are not our problem. Isn't it common though for shops to have you sign a waiver before getting tattooed that basically says they're not liable for that kind of stuff? Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of waiver their studio had. Ours has a section for the client to write the words they want tattooed up themselves and sign it, so I guess it would depend if it matched up with what the artist ended up doing. I was getting a Spanish phrase tattooed on my foot. Tattooist didn't speak any languages, he made me type the phrase into the computer, made me triple check the spelling, before he started playing around with the font and placement. Once he got the stencil on, he sat and read through each letter, spelt it out to me before he started. Lucky he did, as due to the fancy cursive font, he was reading the V as O and another letter incorrectly. An extra 2 minutes of care prevented a potentially meaningless phrase. Tattooist didn't speak any languages. The idea of this hurts my brain. Artist here. Spelling mistakes are common in the industry. I'm the first to tell a customer that I'm a terrible speller, so they had better check everything before the needle hits the skin. I once had a customer who had to call his wife and confirm how they spelled their daughter's name before we got started, and it's a good thing he did. But oftentimes the worst mistakes are stray lines, most often caused by flinching, or missing details, usually a result of losing part of a stencil during the tattoo process. I've heard of clients being fairly crushed by tattoo mistakes, but generally they can be corrected with a little creativity and skill. My worst mistake was made when I was learning to tattoo. As an apprentice, I had to take what I could get when it came to practicing, thank goodness for dumb friends. I tattooed over some very thin skin for the first time, inside the elbow, and blew out a couple of the lines. A blowout is when the needle goes a little too deep and the ink spreads a bit in the soft slushy layers of the skin. It looks like a permanent bruise, and in this case it looked like the tattoo was trying to cover up track marks. She didn't say much about it at the time, but I knew she was pissed. Luckily, I was eventually able to shade over the area and cover up the mistake when we added to the tattoo. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.